After 25 years working in tech, you recently started a company, so tell us about your experience and your role in the company.
Sure. After 25 years of working in-house and most of that time in user experience, I've started my own company that focuses on helping companies increase sales, reduce their operational costs, and decrease lost development time and other good stuff through a better understanding of their customers. So when we understand our customers and we know how to use that data effectively, then we're able to really bring a lot of cost savings and cost earnings to our product creation endeavors.
What's your area of your responsibility?
So I've driven user experience at Yahoo, eBay, Meta, and have had lots of user experience successes for those companies, as well as some other companies. And so now I bring that expertise to my corporate clients who want to make more money and more successful products through strong user experience.
When it comes to understanding customers, what is the most important thing for product creators to focus on?
So I help product creators understand the cost of their poor user experience. For example, how many sales are you losing due to poor UX every quarter? How much money do those lost sales equate to, right? Also, how much more customer engagement could you have on your product? And how much expensive developer time are you losing because you're not shipping all the features or they're writing a lot of code that gets wasted and doesn't end up getting used? So these are just examples. There are many, many more examples, but these are just examples of some of the ways that a poor user experience can really impact a company's bottom line. So that's something that is really important for product creators to think about, is the impact of that user experience on these really important ways that companies make money and need to retain money. So those are just, like I said, a couple of examples, but something that's important for product creators to be aware of.
We know that you have written articles and blog posts about the common mistakes that product creators make when talking to their customers. So can you tell us more about this now?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's really great that a lot of product creators have become very enthusiastic about getting to know their customers. So that's not something that, we've always seen. And I think it's a really positive sign. I mean, I know at some companies, leadership is even encouraging every person in the company to talk to customers. And so it's just really great, that idea and that focus on how we can make, more revenue through better products, how we can reduce operational costs through better products for users. So, because that's a win-win. The users win, and then, the product creators and the companies win as well. So, as a result, what product creators tend to do is pick up the phone and call the customer or call a few customers and then have an in-depth conversation. They ask questions and they get responses, which all sounds really good. The problem is that what actually happens in reality is that the product creator a lot of times will be making decisions based on one or two conversations or maybe a few more, rather than really looking for that meaningful pattern. So, there's a number of responses and customers you really need to talk to be able to really get a meaningful pattern that you can make reliable decisions based on. So sometimes they're stopping short of that and they're just making decisions based on one or a few conversations. And so that, unfortunately creates biased data that actually can mislead decision-making and can totally mislead the company. So that's one, big issue that I've seen, a trend that I've seen when product creators talk to customers. Another thing that I'm seeing when product creators talk to customers without guidance is that users are really bad at answering behavioral questions accurately. This is for a lot of reasons. Human memory is not always reliable. So there's been a lot of research that really shows there are some big flaws in human memory. There are 7 distinct flaws have really been found. Users' self-reports about their own behavior are not necessarily honest. So we rationalize our behavior and we report what we think other people want to hear, and we may not even realize that we're doing that, right? So that can happen too. Users may also lack the ability to really introspect accurately, really getting deep into their behavior. They might interpret a direct question differently from, how the questioner interpreted it, or other users might interpret it differently. And also, really pointed questions lead to pointed answers, so you never know what you're missing. Those are some other things that come into play when product creators pick up the phone and make the phone call. It's really important at some point to make sure that you're using the right method to get at the information that you want. And a lot of times it's important to observe people actually using your products because that's where you get the real richness of understanding getting beyond what the customer is really able to think about and say, and really observe their behavior directly, so that you lose some of these biases that come up through this interpretation layer.
What are the other things for product creators to avoid when it comes to creating highly engaging product users will love and adopt?
So I think another thing that can create problems in this scenario for product creators is that sometimes we're just not even realizing how in love we are with our own product, right? And how passionate we are about it. We've been working on it for even days, weeks, months, or sometimes years. We get really attached to the product and to the way that it is. And we may not even realize our lack of objectivity and the challenge that we have in being critical of that product. Now, why is it important to be critical of our own products? Because then we're able to see them with, the new eyes that a customer might see, right? A new customer comes to our product and they don't see all the things that we already know, and they're experiencing it for the very first time. And so for us to be able to try to experience it that way with those new eyes is really important, because then we can truly see, oh, this part is not that user friendly. Let's adjust that and see if we get more engagement and that sort of thing. So I think that's another thing that can come up sometimes. Sometimes it's hard for us as product creators to be really objective.
Obviously, most product creators have to move fast to get their products to market in a timely manner. Sometimes you're afraid that spending time understanding users will slow them down too much. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, so that's a common concern that, oh gosh, we can't take extra time to understand our users because we've got to get these things out to market. But, anybody who's worked in user experience is accustomed to this, who's worked in, technology, or who's worked with products that need to ship quickly, which is just about every product, right? No company really wants to waste money sitting around and not shipping a product. So we have a lot of ways to get around that, right? So I've delivered understanding about customers in less than 24 hours at times, right? And so there are ways you can do extremely robust understanding of users that can take months. And there are ways that you can do it in hours or days. And, I think it's important for, when I'm really, consulting with product creators and really helping them make those decisions, I'm able to say, hey, we can do it in this time frame, and this is what you get from that, and this is what you miss, right? If you do it a little bit longer, this is the little, what more you'll get. And then you can start to make those trade-offs to really understand, is the trade-off worth it? Do I trade off a little more time to get this much greater understanding, or is it not that worth it, right? And so I think that's something that a really experienced person who's used to working with customers and customer data and gathering customer data really can be able to advise on.
So in your opinion, what are the top 5 skills needed to every product manager?
So I think for product managers, I think it's really important to be very either naturally organized or, adopt those organizational techniques that we know are really important because there's a lot to manage. I think also, obviously excellent communication skills. And by that, I mean also the emotional intelligence that goes along with that. So obviously we have communication skills of writing and of talking to each other, but the emotional intelligence is really important because a lot of times a product manager is pulling together a lot of different streams of information, a lot of different people, a lot of different roles, and really needs to be able to do that in a way where everybody's greatest skill and greatest effort is maximized. And you do that really through strong emotional intelligence. So I think that's an important aspect of communication for product managers. Also, really being analytical, and being able to step back and say, okay, here's all these different streams of information. There are a lot of challenging decisions to be made, right? It's not always really clear cut what the right thing to do is for the product or for the company. And so I think it's really important to be very thoughtful and analytical and be able to step back from one's own feelings and say, okay, these are objective facts, right? I think also to that end, seeking advisement, just being open to what other experts, have to tell you is really important for any of us working together. So most of us have our areas of specialty and we're great at those areas, but we have some maybe blind spots. And so it can be important, for example, to be able to go to an engineer and say, tell me more about the, feasibility of doing this, right? Maybe, I want to make sure that my gut about that is correct. Or somebody like me who's experienced with leveraging customer data, tell me what the impact of this type of feature will be on customers and therefore on our bottom line. Like, is that going to work out the way that I think it will? So I think also being able to know when you just got to make a quick decision and trust your gut, and when you need to take a little time to have a conversation with folks who have different expertise, I think is really important.
Tell us more about your usual working day, how it looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So, one thing I love about my role in user experience and in, understanding users and using customer data is that I don't have necessarily a typical day. It's always different. But in any given day, I'm often meeting with a client, having conversations about how the user experience of their product is going, either planning a study or running a study. So I may also be what we say is in the field, connecting with actual users of that product to understand the questions that the decision makers for the product want to understand. So I may be running the study session, observing users use the product, and then, putting that together, analyzing those data, taking it back and saying, hey, here are what you reliably can know from, this piece of research. Those are some aspects of what I do. And then when you put them all together, what I might be doing in any given day. I also, mentor folks and I do some speaking as well as in any given day, I may also be advising companies on setting up their customer data teams, their user experience teams, really making sure that they've got that, well-oiled machine, sometimes coming in and solving problems around the strategic aspects of leveraging user experience for a product or for a company.
What is your favorite tool or technology you're using in your work?
So, right now, I think you're probably going to get this answer from a lot of folks, but, I'm definitely entranced by the power of AI, ChatGPT. I think there's just a lot that we're able to see there. I'm super excited. I worked at Yahoo Search back in the day, and we were always looking for ways to make it easier for people to find what they need, right? So the idea of knowing the words to type, typing them into a search box, and then the search engine knowing what you mean. So, for example, if you put in Jaguar, do you mean the car brand or do you mean, an animal? That type of thing was always something we were trying to improve upon. And I think it's really exciting to see, the power where we are with AI and what Microsoft recently announced Bing and, where it's able to go with AI. And so I'm really, really excited and I've really enjoyed playing around with these new technologies, the way that it's being applied, as well as just even, reading up about it and just understanding. I think, it reminds me of back when I was working, for the longest time, we were working on web pages and then we started working on mobile. And, it's just really has been really exciting even to today to see all the new apps and all the new ways that we can leverage mobile. And so I'm really excited likewise for this new frontier of, really leveraging AI in new and exciting ways.
What would you recommend as a must-have to learn before going to the first interview for product managers?
I think it's really important to, in any type of interview situation, to really bring curiosity, right? So obviously make sure you're super read up on what that interviewer is doing, what the company is doing, what their work is, their field, and that sort of thing. And then really bring curiosity. So I think, being able to ask questions that are meaningful and get the answers both that you need, but also let them get to know a little bit about you through the types of questions that you ask, I think is really important as well. So, I think that's an important thing skill to have generally for product managers, an important thing to definitely be ready to do in any interview. You want to be able to do that in context of their business and their work and that sort of thing. And a lot of us, working on products have to be able to do that, right? We have to be able to shift from context to context, industry to industry, and that sort of thing. So I think that's an important thing to be able to learn is to quickly come up to speed on that before an interview.
And what resources do you usually read? Maybe you would recommend some books or something, articles maybe?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. I read a lot. There's a really great resource right now and a whole stream of thought around product managers working with UX and user experience working with product managers. And so, I think that's a really exciting resource. Some of those books are available through Rosenfeld Media. And so I think those are some of the resources that I've really looked into is those that are in Rosenfeld Media and that are focused around that topic.
And what advice would you give to the people starting out in product management?
I think it's a great question. I think, my number one piece of advice would be really to follow your heart. So I think it can be really easy, and that's very typical advice. But I think once we get going in our professions, and especially when we're just starting out, it can be easy to sort of end up doing something and realizing like, wow, I've gotten a little far away from my passion space here, right? And this is something actually that lights me up over here. And so doing those check-ins every once in a while, just because the environments we work in again, are so fast paced and there's so much going on. And, there's a lot of distractions from really getting true to ourselves and saying, okay, am I still doing what I really want to be doing here? Am I really contributing my best skills and my best effort and talents? Do I need to make a change for me to be able to maximize my skills, talents, and enjoyment, right? And so that might mean moving to a different product, to a different company, to a different, environment altogether. There may be all kinds of answers to that question. It may not mean not making a change at all. It may mean staying right where you are. But I think, checking in with ourselves and asking ourselves that we owe that to ourselves, because life is short and there are a lot of opportunities. We just have a lot of opportunities as product managers.